Red Sox pitching prospect Hunter Dobbins has worked his way up the system quickly. You're about to hear from him firsthand on his journey through the Red Sox organization.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Red Sox. I am your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and also currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to discuss all things Boston Red Sox Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And it's all completely free. So you might as well start your day off the right way with Locked On Red Sox because I am here every day filling your feeds. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So obviously, you know a lot about FanDuel if you listen to the show a lot, but welcome to today's show. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday week, and we are almost in the new year, which means baseball season is closer than you might think. Spring training is right around the corner, and who better to talk to on today's show than somebody who's going to be at spring training, Red Sox pitching prospect Hunter Dobbins. Hunter, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know, it's pretty much a whirlwind of going from being somebody who is striving to play in Major League Baseball to then having to go through all of these levels within the organization to reach that goal of playing in the majors. So for you, kind of when you were younger and starting in baseball and getting yourself involved, who were some of the players that you watched as a kid that you looked up to and said, I want to be like those guys?
The first one that comes to my mind is my dad. Before I was born, he was up into AA, AAA with the Diamondbacks. So, I was born into the baseball professional family. A lot of my family played up into college. I grew up in Bryan College Station with Texas A&M, so we grew up going to those games. I actually got to see former Red Sox Michael Wacha pitch in college. And so I watched him, and Ian Kinsler was kind of my go-to guys, but I used to be a lot shorter and faster and wanted to be a second baseman like him. But no, those would probably be my top three of kind of who I molded my game after.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's always interesting when there's that family connection too, because you have that bond with your dad over the sport. What position did he play?
He was a starting pitcher.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you're kind of following in his footsteps a little bit here with the pitching, which is also cool. So I know how you mentioned you wanted to be an infielder. What made you kind of make that decision of, pitching is what I'm going to do to pursue in my career here?
It really wasn't up to me. I had a heart-to-heart conversation with my college coach, Tim Tadlock, and I was a third baseman when I went to college. I was a two-way player, but at the time, our third baseman was Josh Young, third baseman for the Rangers right now. And it was going to be his junior year. He was already a two-time All-American, and our coach was basically like, hey, you're probably not playing third base this year. I was like, no kidding. So moved to the bullpen, made a couple spot starts, and then I showed up the next fall throwing low to mid-90s. And he kind of was like, hey, it's time to make a business decision here. That's probably where you're going to make your money. I was like, all right, sounds good. So he kind of took it out of my hands and made it for me.
Yeah, I feel like eventually it gets to the point where you're like, all right, if coach says this is what I should be doing, then this is probably what I should be doing moving forward from now on.
Yeah, he sees so many guys come through there. It's like, you know what? He sees something. I'm going to trust him and go with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I definitely get that, especially when they have that experience of coaching players who have gone on to be successful after that. So what would you say is the most challenging part of being a pitcher?
For me, it's the only getting to play once a week. I grew up wanting to be the guy. I wanted to go play 2 games a day. I wanted to be out there every inning. But the mental side of pitching, the off days, if you have a rough outing, especially as a starter, you're sitting on it for 5 days. You just kind of got to live with it, and you're like, all right, what can I do to not have this feeling again? But then also on the flip side, you go out there and you have a great outing, and then you get to, hey, this is enjoyable. I feel good. I'm going to keep this momentum rolling. But for me, it's like, I don't know if it's because I played every day for so long. The on-field stuff, I just kind of get into a mode and I go. The hardest point for me is the kind of the days in between starts where you're just kind of sitting there. You're trying to stay locked in. You're trying to kind of pick up on the hitters and stuff like that, but it still crosses your mind like, man, I wish I was out there.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that. And you mentioned when you have the rough outings and you have to sit with that and wait until you have your next one to say, okay, I can make up for this next time. But the next time feels probably like an eternity until you're pitching again when everybody has in their head, oh, his last outing was not good. So that's what people are thinking about for those next few days.
Yeah. The worst one, I think it was 2 years ago in 23. They came up to me and they're like, hey, we're going to give you a skip start after your next one. So you're going to pitch and then you'll have I think it was 11 days. And I ended up having a rough one on that one. And so it was even worse because I just had 11 days to sit there and just wear it. And I'm like, because you start itching, you're like, get me back out there so I can get back into my groove and go. But yeah, it gets rough the longer you wait.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure it can be. And that's why being a pitcher is really tough, especially because during a game, there are so many eyes on you during the game. And I feel like it's really easy for people to blame a pitcher if things aren't going right in that game. And that pressure of being the person who people are constantly watching is not easy either, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it's very similar like football and the quarterback,
Yep.
It's you have the ball in your hand every single play. If things aren't going well, there's probably something that you could do different to make it go better. So you're just kind of all eyes on you, you know. Now if you lose a ball game, 1-0, a little different, but it all starts with the pitchers, and that's how the fans view it too.
Yeah, totally, 100%. I mean, I know I'm guilty of that too, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, this pitcher isn't pitching well today," that's why we lost, but obviously it's a team effort, and if the team isn't giving you run support, like you mentioned with the 1-0 losses, there's not really anything you can do about that. That's just the offense isn't showing up, you know?
Yeah, and it's one of those that as a pro, there's very few days where the offense isn't going to pick me up as a pitcher, and they do have my back so often. I hope that every day they need me to pick them up, I'm right there to do it. But one thing I will say is especially me personally, it's if I do have a day like that and the fans are like, man, this pitcher isn't going well, I can guarantee you that pitcher's sitting there saying the same exact things to himself. You're like, well, I didn't help the team out much today. So we definitely see it from the player and the fan side.
Yeah, and the frustration is definitely visible. I can see, watching Red Sox games, those guys are visibly frustrated if they aren't pitching well. So sometimes it's a reminder for people that, even though we don't like it, the pitcher likes it even less because obviously they don't want to have that type of performance either. So us being frustrated doesn't even compare to the feeling that they have in that moment because they know they didn't perform well for their team that day.
Exactly. It's, we wear it we take it pretty hard, but, it's part of the life of an athlete. You're going to have those days where you just got to let it roll off. You got to refocus and go get it the next time.
Yeah, exactly. And, with pitching, obviously there's so much technique involved and so much skill involved. So for you, what does kind of your daily routine look like on your off days when you're not making a start that day? Does your routine change at all in terms of what you're doing? Are you not really moving your arm at all, or what does that kind of look like?
Um, I typically throw every single day except for the day right after I pitch. Um, kind of the distance of throwing will vary, but always end with some good training and just throwing, and then getting in the weight room and making sure we're still staying moving. But routine stays the same pretty much year round.
Okay. Yeah. So during the off season, then after the season's over, how much time do you typically take off completely before you start throwing again?
About 6 weeks. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
take about 6 weeks of just nothing but lifting and weight room mobility work, kind of working on some stuff that I know I need to, and then start ramping it up and getting ready to go again.
Yeah. So you're starting to throw before pitchers and catchers report to spring training.
Yeah, I'm over with some family right now, but I think when I get back on Monday, we start bullpens and stuff. So that way, when we get back to spring training, I typically want to be ready to go and be able to throw about 2 innings worth of hitters.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of a gradual easing back into it and
Mhm.
amping back up, the volume of how much you're throwing before the season actually starts. Going to be getting you back to my interview with Hunter Dobbins very quickly. But first, I want to tell you a little bit more about FanDuel because the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. If you want an opportunity to win lots of money, FanDuel absolutely is the place for you. I am telling you, you will not regret downloading it and starting to win money now. We're back here with Red Sox pitching prospect Hunter Dobbins. During spring training, obviously there's some opportunity, I'm sure, to interact with some of the major league guys who have gotten to that level and are where you strive to be. So, have you gotten any advice from some of those guys that you've kind of stuck with and taken with you as you progress through your career?
Yeah, the biggest one was Chris Sale. I actually got to rehab when I was drafted. I was in the middle of Tommy John. So I got to know him really well, and he kind of told me, is like, no matter what level you're at, be who you are. Don't let it change your game. Like, just go after hitters and kind of have that bulldog mentality. That was pretty big for me to learn that from him before I even really threw my first professional inning. So that, and then a lot of off the field stuff from guys, when I was in AAA last year, kind of picking the brains of the guys who've been up and down, been there, know how everything works there. So kind of just learning how to be a professional off the field as well, not so much on field success, because you are who you are. At this point, there's stuff that you can tweak, you make some pitches better, work on some small things, but for the most part, you are who you are. So just learn how to handle your business off the field and let the on-field stuff take care of itself.
Yeah, and Chris Sale is a great person to learn from. I mean, he did some great things with the Red Sox. I mean, he's a winner, so obviously he knows what it's like to win a World Series, and he just is a hard worker. I mean, that's what I always liked
Mm-hmm.
about the guy was he just constantly grinded. Even through injury, he just wanted to be back out there, and that's the type of attitude you want somebody to have on the team.
Oh, absolutely. That's why, if he was talking around me, I was, mouth closed, ears open. I was trying to soak in as much as I can because it's very few guys that you get to hang around as much as I was. I've won Cy Young awards, and so it's like you might as well, especially where I was at. Like I said, hadn't even thrown my first professional inning yet. Hadn't even thrown against a hitter for a year and a half at that point. And so it was like I got to soak in that mentality and the knowledge that he had, and I think that's really helped me kind of get to where I am today.
Yeah, 100%. I love Chris Sale. I was upset when the Red Sox traded him, but I was happy for him for the season
Mhm.
that he had this past year because I'll always appreciate what he did in Boston because they really did have him at his best when he won a World Series with us. So it was really fun having
Mhm.
him around for sure. And we talked a lot about the mental stuff and learning different things from people. So what is it like being in the Red Sox organization, like an organization that's so historic and has had so many legendary players that have come through the system? Like, what has that been like for you?
It's been a lot of fun. It's my dad has been a diehard Red Sox fan since he was little. There's actually like a baby picture of me wearing a Boston logo. I think like
Oh,
I was maybe a couple months old, so it's kind of, I guess it's been foreshadowing that I would be a part of. So we've always kept up with it. But just kind of seeing the history on the walls, walking through the facility. I mean, Dustin Pedroia called us when I was in Double A my first year and was talking to us. It's spring training. Pedro's walking around. Ortiz is walking around. Like, there's so many of these great players that are always around us that it's really cool because I know there's a lot of organizations that aren't as lucky to have that. Um, but then at the same time, it's kind of a challenge and a calling of like, all right, who's next? Like, who's going to be the next guy to come up and, you know, I'm not saying anybody will ever be Roger Clemens again, but I just always use him because I'm number 21. And so it's like, who's going to be that next pitcher that leaves the mark that he did? That's what we all want to be. That's what we all want to do. And so it's as cool as it is to soak up the history. It's also a calling of, you better challenge yourself and you better show up to work every day.
yeah, because of just how successful the Boston Red Sox organization has been and all these names you just listed, guys who really made their mark in
Mm-hmm.
Boston. It's like, all right, this is, I want this to be me. And this is a franchise where you really have to grind every day in order to, you know, make your mark with the Boston Red Sox because it's just there's so many talented players to have come through here. And I mean, Pedro, I mean, just thinking about what
Mm-hmm.
Pedro did for the Red Sox, I mean, one of the best pitchers to ever do it. And it's like to follow somebody like that, I feel like it would be an honor to get that same opportunity like he did in a Boston Red Sox uniform. But it's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
what do I have to do to have those same kind of numbers and that same kind of success that Pedro had with the Boston Red Sox? Because that's obviously not easy
Mm-hmm.
either.
No, absolutely. It was, and like I remember, I want to say it was the spring training of 23. I walked in the first day and big league camp was already going on. All the big league guys were there. And I was walking over to the minor league side and I walked past the weight room and I looked back and somebody was in there working out and I saw him stand up and I was like, I had to do a double take. I was like, was that Pedro? And so I backed up and I looked in there and it was him. And he just came over and started talking to all of us like he knew us for years. And I was like, man, like that's really cool. But yeah, I definitely like had to take that second. I was like, am I seeing who I think I just saw? But yeah, no, all those guys come around and they treat us like family and they do a really good job of, passing on that knowledge.
Yeah, that's really cool that you just
Mhm.
casually saw him and he was there and he was acting as if he knew you forever. And I think
Mhm.
in a way, people feel connected in that way because he has been in your shoes before, he knows what it's like to be part of that grind of having to work your way up. And baseball, especially, I feel like it's so difficult to really make it to that level, not only just with how good of a player you are, but also the mental aspect of it. And I feel like he knows and understands that. So that's why he feels connected to you in that way. Cause he's like, yeah, I mean, I was
Mhm.
in their shoes at one point in my career too. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's super cool. I feel like it's just obviously I'm biased because I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, but I feel like it would just be so cool to be part of that organization in particular because they have a history of success and they have a long line of players who have come through Boston and have just become among the best players in the sport. So that has to just be
Mhm.
exciting to think about when it comes to your future as a baseball player.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of like I said earlier, it's it's cool to be a Red Sox. It's to put on the same uniform because I don't think they've changed the uniforms in I don't know how many years outside of the City Connects. So it's like you're wearing the same
They
uniform
haven't.
as them, but at the end of the day, it's that same challenge. It's like, all right, this city expects to win. They expect whoever's wearing that jersey to do their job, and so you better show up ready to go.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, every day you have to continue to prove yourself. And touching on the mental stuff a little bit again, how do you refocus if you do have one of those rough outings, like you talked about before? Like, what do you tell yourself mentally to kind of keep yourself on track and not get too discouraged so that you can go out there next time as if it didn't happen and it's basically a new start for you?
Um, the best way that I do it for myself is to remind myself that it's the same game I played since I was little, same strike zone. So obviously, quality of hitters a lot better, but I'm 60 feet 6 inches away from the plate, and I got to throw it over that same 17-inch wide target. I'm gonna be able to do it. Am I gonna have an off day? Yes, but I know for a fact I can get up there and do my job 9 times out of 10. And worst case scenario, if I go out there and have a bad one, I as soon as I leave, I know I can go home. Family still loves me. I'm still a Boston Red Sox, and you know what? I'm gonna get another opportunity to go out there and do it again, and I'm gonna be ready. So I just basically, if I have a rough one, I go home, I challenge myself. Let's fix what I did wrong over this next week, and let's not let it happen again.
Yeah, which I feel like is hard for some people to be able to have that mindset, but being able to refocus and say, none of us are perfect and we all have bad days at work. Like we can come back and bounce back and
Mhm.
everything will be okay. And especially for people who are watching, like they'll forget about it in a week if you have two more solid starts after that. Like you bounce back
Exactly.
and the next two are really good. People aren't even going to remember that it happened. And that's the beauty, I think, of having so many games and so many opportunities to pitch is that you can erase that pretty quickly if you bounce
Mhm.
back after that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's especially over a baseball season. I mean, 162 plus games. You're gonna have plenty of opportunities to, you know, improve the fans' perspective on you. It's not like football where you get one game a week and you get 16 tries, and then all of a sudden, well, you're either a backup or people want you gone. It's as a starting pitcher, as the type of starting pitcher I want to be, I want to get 35-ish plus starts a year. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna be the best I can, but I know there's gonna be out of those 35, there's gonna be five where I feel like everything is working. There's gonna be five that I feel like there's absolutely zero working. But where the fans' perspective comes in is those other 25 of where some work, some don't, and what can I do with it? Those are going to be the ones that kind of make or break the fans' opinion on me.
Stay tuned to continue to learn more about Boston Red Sox pitching prospect Hunter Dobbins. And if you're looking to see him play or any Red Sox players play in 2025, be sure to utilize GameTime for your ticketing needs. It is the best ticketing vendor because it's a lot cheaper than other ones, and it shows the view from your seat every time so that you know that you're purchasing tickets that are well worth your while because you'll be able to actually see. And it's not just games you can get tickets to, any live event. So concerts, comedy shows, musicals, you name it, whatever you enjoy doing, utilize GameTime to get those tickets. GameTime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love GameTime so much. I use it for literally any time I'm buying tickets now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? GameTime. I'm telling you, this will change your life. I always utilize GameTime now, no other ticketing vendor. So that could be you too, saving lots of money on any live event that you want to go to. Back here with Red Sox pitching prospects, Hunter Dobbins, who is well on his way to achieve a lot of success in Major League Baseball. From a development standpoint, the Red Sox have really, over the last year or so, put a lot of emphasis on making sure that they're developing their pitching the right way and that they're bringing guys up through their system that can contribute for a long time down the road, which I think is super important because this is a great opportunity now with where you're at to really be able to pave your way and get that call up to the majors and be able to continue to develop in that way because the Red Sox are really putting emphasis on their coaching staff on the pitching side and making sure that from a development standpoint, they're bringing guys up who are going to be long lasting. So for you, what are you hoping to improve on in 2025? Like, what are your goals for the upcoming season to help you to further reach that goal of, pitching at the major league level?
I'm looking just to build off of my last month, or I guess last couple months, but focus on the last month in AAA. I think my stigma, I guess, around me is that I'm always, tinkering and changing my arsenal. That's finally over with. When I got to AAA, I have a 5-pitch mix that we really focused on and had some really good success on it. So building consistency with those 5 pitches and just sticking with them, going at it, and just, continue to be stronger, healthy, and be that guy that goes 6, maybe 7 innings. Because that's what I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be kind of the workhorse pitcher. I might not strike out the world. I might not have the flashiest whiff numbers or whatever, but I'm going to get weak contact, and you're going to look out there, 7 out of 10 times, I'm going to still be standing on the mound in the 6th inning. I want to be the inning eater. I want to be the guy that takes the stress off the bullpen. So just kind of continue building towards that. And then I guess can't kind of answer your question for this year is I just want to show up and be ready to go in any role that they need me to be. I know guys like Cutter, Houck, Whitlock, all those guys have, they kind of started in the bullpen and then came and earned their way into the rotation. If they need me to come and throw, 97, 98 out of the bullpen for 2 to 3 innings this year, I'll be like, all right, sounds good. Let's do it and go for there. So just kind of be ready for whatever role they need me to be in.
Yeah. And I think from a major league perspective, that's a great attitude to have too, because like you said, guys might get shifted around and they might try to experiment with guys in different roles. Like, okay, let's see if he would do better in this type of role. And Garrett Whitlock in particular is somebody who we've seen a lot of that with, how they've kind of experimented with him both in the bullpen and as a starter. And it sounds like they do plan on putting him in the bullpen this upcoming season. But we've been able to see a lot of different sides of Garrett Whitlock because they've put him in different roles. And I think he's just always had that mentality of, I'll do what they need me to do. That's what's going to make me successful. And I think that's a great mentality to have about it. And, the Red Sox have a young pitching staff right now, lots of younger players who are still developing and still haven't reached their full potential yet. And so I think in that regard, this is a great opportunity for you because, you could join those guys. And as the Red Sox continue to really shape their pitching rotation for the future, I feel like there's not a better time for you to be where you're at right now.
Exactly. Going out and getting Bueller, Crochet, and those guys, like we have an extremely strong rotation. Adding those guys in with Houck, Cutter, Giolito coming back, Bayo, of course. I mean, if all things work out, I mean, we have a great group of young guys that can be together for years. And, there's not a lot of organizations that can say that, hey, we have a bunch of guys that are 28 and younger, and we got, 9 of them that are in the big leagues and double A that all can contribute.
Yep.
I will say, I think there's a lot of underrated pitchers in our system that are still flying under the radar. So I think there's even more reinforcements coming on the pitching side. The front office has done an absolutely great job of going and getting pitchers and then developing them. We're about to have arms for years coming up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But my biggest thing that I live by in baseball is your best ability is availability. And so it's, if I can help in one way or the other, I'm happy to do it. I know long term, I'm going to be a starting pitcher and I'm going to go and try to have success in doing that. But like I said, if they need me to come out and throw gas for 2 to 3 innings, I'll come air it out and help them out that way.
Yeah, exactly. And you never really know where the opportunity's going to be and when it's even going to come up. And I feel like it's a matter of timing a lot of times too. And I think, with like what you talked about with a lot of young pitchers in the system who are developing, I think that's really exciting for the organization. And bringing in somebody like Andrew Bailey, who I feel like has a history of developing pitchers well, is really promising for the future. So, what do you think it is about him and his abilities that has really helped some of these guys to grow? Because we saw like tremendous growth, I feel like, in the past year, even from guys like Tanner Houck and Brian Baya.
I think it comes mainly from his years of being a player and dominating as a pitcher. He understands what it takes on the mound. He understands the player's thought process, and he just has a very good way of communicating, hey, we need to do this. Let's try this. Like sometimes there's a big disconnect of, all right, the coach wants this. Now we need to find a way for the player to understand how to get that done. And he does an extremely good job of explaining that and getting the best out of the players. But I'd also got to tip the cap to, the rest of the pitching department. Our pitching coach, Dan, in AAA, our pitching coach in AA, Sean Isaac, like they're all that same way. They've played, they've had success. They all coach the same way. So it's the communication and the continued development starting from the low levels all the way up to the big leagues. There's always somebody pushing you to do better.
Yeah, you need that too. You need it to be a chain reaction of people who are really focused on getting the best out of you as a player, so that the more you work your way up, the more you're able to maximize that potential. And I have heard a lot of things, like you said, about Andrew Bailey and just the pitching coaching staff is just their ability to identify the strengths of the pitchers that they have and really capitalize on those. And I think that's so important for the development process.
Yeah, it's whenever you have a coach, and for us, I'm going to say a coaching system that does a really good job of not just creating cookie cutter pitchers like, hey, analytics say this works, so everybody's going to throw this. Like, our pitching system does a great job of identifying what we do well, what we don't do well. And it's like, hey, you don't do this very well, so let's not do that, and let's just do this more and get this better. And that was a big thing for me, is like, I started throwing a circle change when I was first here. It was terrible. I think sometimes it was more like a BP fastball to hitters. And they're like, well, it's because the way my arm moves, I need to throw a splitter. Well, now that splitter was good, but now we've turned into the splinker, and all of a sudden the splinker has like a 50% whiff rate. And so it's like those little things like that our pitching system has found, like, hey, don't throw the circle change ever again or you're cut. Let's throw the splinker, and look what happens. And we had success with it at the AAA level like we did. And so they do that with every pitcher. And that's why I said, though, we're about to have arms coming up for years just because of the success that they've had.
Which is so exciting for me to hear that too, because I think the future is really bright for the Red Sox organization. Lots of young talent here, not even just from a pitching perspective, but just in general. There's just a ton of talent in the Red Sox system right now. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that all progress, over the next few years here. But I'm definitely looking forward to, following your journey and seeing when you get that opportunity, because it could be closer than you think it is, and I feel like that feeling of getting that first call up and being like, wow, like this is happening. I'm pitching at Fenway Park. Like, I feel like that's an indescribable feeling, and it'll be really cool to see you get there.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it, and it's kind of like you said. There's so many prospects coming up. I mean, I was drafted with Marcelo. I've watched Roman. I think he caught me when I was in Greenville, and then we've literally gone up almost every level shortly after each other. And then Campbell, his absolutely historic rise this past year. Seeing those guys kind of rise through the system and seeing like we're all right there. It's honestly a great time to be a Red Sox fan. I think there's going to be this next year is going to be awesome when it comes to guys getting called up and getting a shot. But yeah, I definitely think the next, hopefully 10 plus years, but the next few years for sure are going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of success, and we'll just kind of keep pushing each other.
I love that. I love that mentality, and it's just feels like such a big family, environment, and a big like collective agreement of we're all going to give 100% here. We're proud to be with the Boston Red Sox, and we're going to do what we can to bring this organization some success. So I do love that, and I am really excited for you. I think you definitely have a great attitude and great work ethic, and I know you're definitely going to be going places. So I'm excited to see your career take off in that way.
I appreciate it. I always said that our minor league system feels a lot like a college team. It's a really close, kind of tight-knit family. And I think we all have the same mindset of, what, we're all gunning for the same job in Boston, but I don't want to beat you out because you have a down year. I want to earn that job, but I want us both to push each other to be the best we can. That way we both end up getting the job and we both get that shot. It's not one of those, I hope I edge you out because you have an off game. No, I want us to both go shove and make the front office have the tough decision on who to call up. That's because it's at the end of the day, especially like Isaac Coffey. He's my roommate in Portland. He had an absolutely amazing year in AA, won Eastern League Pitcher of the Year, led the league in strikeouts. And it's like, I cannot wait for him to get up to AAA and me and him be the 1-2 punch again and have those weekly kind of competitions to see who can have the better outing and all that. Like, it's stuff like that that makes it a lot fun, that family feel, but also that competition to make you better.
Yeah, it pushes you every day to be the best version of yourself. So having guys like that who can really push you and motivate you to continue to get better is only going to make you a better pitcher at the end of the day. And imagine, both of you pitching together in the majors. That would also be kind of cool, and saying, wow, remember, back in the day when we were in the lower levels and we kept pushing each other. Like, that'd be kind of cool to look back on too at that point.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's going to have a long career. He's a great guy off the field, but an absolute, like, his mentality is one of the best I've ever been around on the field. Plus, watching his changeup and his slider move, I think they have like 50 or something inches of total spread. It's like playing catch with him is the hardest thing ever because he'll throw something and it just keeps going. It's absolutely gross. But no, Coffey's one of my favorite people on this earth, and I'm ready to see him get up there.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for that too. Just from everything I've seen on him, highlights or just even stats of his, I'm like, I feel like this kid is going to be special too. So I'm glad you're giving that validation, and just about the Red Sox, organization and group of pitchers in general that we have. So Red Sox fans that are listening out there, be excited about this, because we have a really, really bright future ahead of us. And I think we're going to see a lot of really high level talent in Boston here in the next few years.
Oh, absolutely. I could go on and on about our pitching farm, but I know that it'll be like an hour and a half long episode if we do that. So I'll cut it there.
That's all right. It's all good. Yeah, I do really appreciate you coming on. This was awesome. Great insight. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where your career takes you, because I think the sky's the limit at this point for sure. And you've already accomplished so much in the Red Sox system. So excited for you to get that opportunity.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. As always, everybody, thank you for tuning into the show. Make sure you also check out Locked On MLB, where you can hear about what's going on around the whole league. You can find that show wherever you get your podcasts. Like I always say, let's give a big go Red Sox at the end of every show. And, excited for 2025 and beyond. And I will catch you next time.